So talk about how you go from meeting with the parent and, doing an assessment to being able to actually represent the parent and the child at the school. Talk about how that process works.
So when a parent calls me, we talk, we do the basic assessments. I find out what their goals are. And then I send a consent form to the schools because I want to pull all the records. Now, sometimes the students will have an appointment coming up and sometimes they don't. So if they don't have a ETR meeting or an IEP meeting coming up, but the parents have concerns, I write the request. Now in Ohio, there's timelines. When you are requesting an initial evaluation team report, an ETR, the school has to meet with you within 30 days.
Oh, wow.
So I'm watching a timeline for my families. You go to the meeting, you talk about why you feel like your child needs to be evaluated.
And who's at the meeting on the side for the school?
It's normally the general classroom teacher or one of the teachers from, if their child is in middle school or high school where the teachers are changing, where they have like 6 or 7 teachers. So one of those teachers need to be at the meeting. At the ETR meeting, the school psychologist.
Okay.
School psychologist needs to be at the meeting. A building administrator, district administrator, a principal, someone from the exceptional children's department needs to be at this meeting. If the child needs to be evaluated for speech or OT or PT, that person needs to be at the meeting. So this meeting can have a minimum of 4 people, maybe up to about 7, 8.
Okay.
We come to the meeting, we talk about assessments. How is the child scoring on the district tests and the state tests? What does that look like? How is the child performing in the classroom? And what is the child's grade? So we'll glance over grades because sometimes kids do pretty well. Depending on who the teacher is and what that looks like. Sometimes it looks like the kid is doing well, but that may not be the case. So we pull together all that information and determine if the child needs to be evaluated for special education services. Now there are times that the school district will say, no, we think the student is doing well. We'll just give the child some interventions. You need to make sure, parents, that you're asking for a PRO1, prior written notice. Whenever the school district accepts your request or denies your request, it needs to go into their prior written notice. Once we meet at that meeting, if the school districts decide that they're going to go ahead and do an evaluation, the district has 60 days to complete that evaluation. And then the parents go back for a meeting to determine if the student is eligible for special education services. A student for an IEP has to fall within 13 categories. 1 out of the 13 categories, excuse me. If the child does, then the school will meet again in an additional 30 days to write the IEP and have it completed and implemented. So it's a process. I tell my families it is a marathon and not a sprint.